Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And the show just ended. And Dynamite tonight, I thought it was just a very mid-show in my opinion. But tonight on Dynamite, we had Orange Cassidy. He had taken on Trent Beretta. We have Mariah May in action, and she have taken on Harley Cameron of the Outcasts. We had Jay White versus Rocky Romero. Of course, we had Jericho and Big Bill. Jericho of the Learning Tree. He's the Learning Tree. And they have taken on Jobbers, Jabari, and Harlon Abbott. I think that's how you pronounce their names. And the main event, we had a no disqualification match with the TNT Championship on the line. Adam Copeland defend the title against Brody King. And we also had a announcement from Kenny Omega. Of course, Kenny Omega ended up returning last week on Dynamite. He was out because he had diverticulitis. And then, of course, at the end of Dynamite last week, you had the Bucks and Okada ended up beating down on Omega. But overall, Dynamite tonight was just a very mid-show, in my opinion. I don't know what was with Dynamite, AEW, with them delivering, mid-shows, currently. I don't understand. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight, and we saw Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland was walking into the arena, and he was being interviewed. He was asked about how he's tackling his TNT Championship match against Brody King later on in the night. Copeland ended up saying that he's not been feeling very well, but he knows he needs to end things with the House of Black. And he ended up revealing that the match he has against Brody King later on in the night will have no disqualifications. And he promises to give Malachi Black the fight he wants. So that's when, Copeland ended up, addressing that the match with him and Brody King will be no disqualification. So pretty much that was that. And then we had the show open. Of course, you had the intro with, the Elite. You saw, the same intro from last week, where it had the Bucks and Okada, Jack Perry. And then, we saw the pyro. And then we kicked off with the first match of the night. Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta. Of course, Orange Cassidy once again starting off Dynamite. Tony Khan's golden boy opening up the show. And this match was okay in my opinion. I mean, do you all care about Trent Beretta and what he's doing to his former best friends, in Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor? I mean, do you all care? But the match ended up getting away. We had Cassidy and Beretta end up charging at each other. Both guys were trading blows. Trent ended up sliding out of the ring. He ended up getting dropped with a dive by Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ended up slamming Trent against the barricade. And then he ended up slamming Trent into the ring post. Trent started fighting back at Cassidy. He ended up taking Cassidy down with a lariat. Beretta ended up following up with some punches as he was wearing Cassidy down. So Trent ended up taking Cassidy into the barricade. He ended up sending him to the opposite side. Cassidy ended up recovering. He landed on his feet. He ended up putting his hands in his pockets as Trent ended up approaching him. Cassidy ended up evading an attack from Trent, and he ended up taking Trent up through the crowd. So Cassidy and Trent were fighting through the crowd. So Cassidy ended up driving his fist against Beretta's skull, as they were going up, in the stands. Trent ended up trying to turn things around on Orange Cassidy. He was sent up to go for a suplex to Orange Cassidy, but Cassidy ended up reversing it, so he ended up suplexing Trent on the cement. So Trent ended up against the barricade. Cassidy ended up going for a clothesline. He ended up getting sent flying over with a back body drop. Trent then climbed onto the barricade, and he was swept off by Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ended up sliding into the ring, and Beretta ended up returning to the ring. Cassidy ended up going for the orange punch, and Trent ended up evading it. He ended up going for a running knee, and he ended up hitting the running knee at the same time that Orange Cassidy ended up hitting the orange punch. So both Cassidy and Beretta were down on the canvas. So as both Cassidy and Beretta were trying to recover in the ring, we saw Don Callis end up walking down the ramp. Callis ended up looking, amused by, what was going on in the ring between Cassidy and Trent. He ended up heading to the ring, and then Dynamite ended up going to commercial. So during the picture-in-picture, Callis appeared, watching the match from ringside, and he ended up going to the commentary table. So then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had both Cassidy and Trent. They ended up making it to their feet because, Cassidy ended up trying to go for a beach break. It got reversed into a piledriver attempt by Trent, and then Orange Cassidy ended up fighting out. He ended up hitting a kick to Trent's chest. So this was all during the picture-in-picture. So both guys end up making it to their feet, both Cassidy and Beretta. When Dynamite came back from the commercial, they were trading strikes at each other. Cassidy ended up getting sent to one knee by Trent. Trent ended up going for a suplex, but Cassidy ended up reversing that suplex attempt from Trent. And he ended up hitting the ropes, and Orange Cassidy ended up delivering a DDT to Trent, which that ended up dropping Trent hard to the mat. So Cassidy ended up sitting Trent with a series of kicks, and then he ended up hitting Beretta with some punches. Cassidy was setting up to go for the orange punch, but he was caught with a half-and-half suplex delivered by Trent. So we had Trent end up delivering a short arm lariat to Orange Cassidy, which he ended up taking Cassidy down to the canvas. Trent then ended up hitting a jumping pile driver, and he started running down on Cassidy. He ended up bringing Cassidy back up, and we had Trent end up delivering another pile driver to Cassidy. Trent headed to the corner, and he ended up hitting Cassidy with a knee strike because, before that, he was mocking a hug request, how the best friends used to hug it out. He was mocking that, and he then hit Cassidy with the knee strike. So we had, at the end, Cassidy ended up driving Trent into the opposite turnbuckle. He ended up rolling Trent up, and there you go. Orange Cassidy ended up winning the match. Post-match, Trent then blindsided Orange Cassidy. He ended up raking Orange Cassidy's eyes. He ended up setting up the steps on the outside. Trent then ended up bringing Orange Cassidy over to the ring steps, and Trent then delivered a pile driver to Orange Cassidy onto the ring steps. So the crowd was booing away at Trent after that. So Trent then continued to attack Orange Cassidy. He ended up driving Orange Cassidy into the lower part of the apron. So Cassidy started crawling away. Trent ended up going underneath the ring to retrieve another weapon, But Orange Cassidy had a chair in hand to defend himself against Trent. Don Callis ended up rushing over to intervene. Chris Statlander was also out there. She also tried to get involved. And too late, Chris Statlander. You should have been out there before Trent ended up pile driving Orange Cassidy onto the ring steps. And, what was really crazy was after, Trent ended up pile driving Orange Cassidy onto the ring steps, Orange Cassidy ended up getting back up. And he started walking like nothing even happened. So, but basically that was that. Overall, okay match it was between Orange Cassidy and Trent. But do you all care about, this new heel character for Trent? So then we saw the Elite. We saw the Bucks and we saw Okada and Jack Perry. They arrived in the parking lot and they ended up stealing Tony Khan's parking spot because Tony Khan is still working remotely from Jacksonville. So the Elite end up taking Tony Khan's parking spot there at the arena tonight. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega appeared to be in a hospital room, and he ended up addressing what went down last week where he made his return to Dynamite after being out with diverticulitis, which is serious on your life. So he explained, that last week, he almost, had to, wear a colostomy bag. And of course, he was attacked by the Elite last week at the end of Dynamite. So Kenny Omega ended up saying that he was reminded last week that this is just business, realizing that he has business of his own to attend to. So Omega ended up saying that May 26th is the 5th anniversary of Double or Nothing. He ended up announcing Anarchy in the arena with no rules. It will be the Elite will be facing Team AEW. And so Kenny Omega then ended up announcing the first two members of Team AEW. And those first two members are FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler. So Kenny Omega then ended up saying that the rest will be coming soon enough. So we had Kenny Omega end up saying goodbye, moi, and good night. Bang. So that was that. Kenny Omega ended up announcing that, a Double or Nothing. Anarchy in the arena. Of course, no rules. Elite versus Team AEW. But, of course, once again, we got the Elite versus FTR. Like, how many times are we going to see this? How many times are we going to see the Bucks and FTR? It was good the first time. They had a, good second match, good third match. But I'm tired of seeing the Bucks versus FTR already. They just drive this into the ground here. To the point where I don't want to see another FTR Bucks match. Before this, before Kenny Omega ended up addressing, this, there was a video package of, Kenny Omega saying, that he's reminding everyone that he is still an EVP. And then, of course, the Elite end up attacking him. Then Jack Perry ended up cutting a promo after last week's Dynamite where he ended up calling Kenny Omega a coward. And that AEW and the Elite don't need Omega anymore. And Perry ended up saying that they're going to change the world without him. The Elite are going to change the world without Omega. And they know what sacrifices need to be made. And he ended up saying Omega made his. So that was that. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone, he was on the stage, and he ended up welcoming Serena Deeb out. So Serena Deeb ended up coming out to address a match at Double or Nothing with Toni Storm, where the AEW Women's World Championship will be on the line. So Serena Deeb ended up talking about her story about coming back into this business, recovering from a series of seizures that she suffered that nearly sidelined her career for good. You know, seizures are very scary. And I've seen, videos of people that had, seizures. Very scary stuff. So Serena Deeb ended up saying that she did everything she could to understand why it happened, only understanding that a lot of times you don't know what causes seizures. So Serena Deeb ended up saying that she has had a lot of time to reflect on her career, having a vision of what it would be like to finally become the AEW Women's World Champion. So Serena Deeb was interrupted by timeless Toni Storm. So Toni Storm came out. She kept running down Serena Deeb's story. She kept saying that she is listening to a charity case in Serena Deeb. But Serena Deeb ended up telling Toni Storm to take this seriously because she will fight for her life to become the AEW Women's World Champion. So Toni Storm ended up saying to Serena Deeb that she doesn't care at all about what, Deeb has been through. And this led to a stare down between both Serena Deeb and Toni Storm. Toni Storm ended up trying to go for a cheap shot at Serena Deeb, but Serena Deeb ended up laying out Toni Storm. Toni Storm was laid out back first on the stage, knocked out. So Serena Deeb walked off. Luther then ended up coming out. Luther helped Toni Storm up, lifting Toni Storm off the stage, and that was basically that. But overall, I'm looking forward to this match with Serena Deeb and Toni Storm. Obviously, Toni Storm is going to retain the AEW Women's World Championship at Double or Nothing. Serena Deeb just came back. I don't see them putting the title on Serena Deeb, now at Double or Nothing, since she just returned. But overall, I thought this was a, decent segment here. Love seeing Serena Deeb. We missed Serena Deeb while she was out. Very sad that, she had, some seizures. Like I said, seizures are very scary. And then we saw Orange Cassidy. And they were going to give us a medical update on Orange Cassidy. Rocky Romero ended up stepping in. Rocky Romero ended up saying that he's sorry about what's been going down. He ended up saying that Tony Khan has confirmed that a win over Jay White tonight means him, Orange Cassidy, and a partner of their choosing can challenge for the Unified Trios Championship. So Rocky Romero ended up bringing up mending fences with Trent, and that Orange Cassidy is having none of it. So Orange Cassidy ended up wishing Rocky Romero the best of luck in the match. So pretty much that was basically that. So we had Rocky Romero versus Jay White, later on in the night. And then we had Mariah May versus Harley Cameron. Did not even care for this match. We had Mariah May end up going on the attack on Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron started fighting back. She ended up sneaking in some near-fall attempts on Mariah May, to which Mariah May ended up kicking out. And for some reason, during this match, I don't know why they kept cutting away from the match to the stage, and then back to the match, and then back to the stage. Like, what the fuck was that? I don't know if you all saw that tonight during this match, but that happened occasionally. It happened occasionally in the match where you see Mariah May, Harley Cameron, wrestling in the ring, cut to the stage, and then cut back to the match, cut back to the stage. I'm like, what the fuck were they doing? So Harley Cameron ended up keeping on the attack on Mariah May. Mariah May ended up sending Harley Cameron into the corner, and we had Mariah May end up going for the cover, to which Harley Cameron ended up kicking out. Of course, you had Saraya at ringside, because Saraya ended up accompanying Harley Cameron. So Harley ended up heading to the apron, and she was pulled by her hair by Mariah May, and Harley Cameron ended up kicking Mariah May down. Harley Cameron ended up sending Mariah May to the outside, and then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, both Mariah May and Harley Cameron end up on the canvas. They end up slowly getting back to their feet. They started trading strikes at each other. Mariah May ended up sending Harley Cameron to the ropes for a powerbomb, and Mariah May ended up going for the cover, to which Harley Cameron ended up kicking out. Mariah then ended up bringing Cameron back to her feet, and we had Harley Cameron end up delivering a jawbreaker to Mariah May, but Mariah May came back and delivered a massive headbutt to Harley Cameron. She had taken Harley Cameron down hard. Mariah May ended up going up to the top. Harley Cameron got to her feet, and Mariah May ended up delivering a missile drop kick to Harley Cameron from the top. At the end of the match, we had Mariah May ended up taking Harley Cameron down with the Mayday. Mariah May ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Mariah May ended up winning the match. Post-match, Saraya ended up getting into the ring. She ended up attacking Mariah May. Harley Cameron ended up joining Saraya on attacking Mariah May. And then Mina Shirakawa ended up running down to make the save for Mariah May, because Mina and Mariah May, they were, former tag team partners in Japan. They get New Japan. So Mina ended up embracing Mariah, and they were celebrating. Of course, they did the tease where both Mina and Mariah were going to kiss, but Mina ended up tricking that, and she ended up going out of the ring. She ended up grabbing the champagne bottles, and so Mina and Mariah end up just celebrating, drinking champagne. That was pretty much basically that. Overall, did not even care for this match. Mariah May, Harley Cameron. Found it boring. And then we went backstage, and we saw Pac. Pac ended up addressing the return of Ray Phoenix, and he was then interrupted by the Bang Bang Gang. Of course, Jay White and the Guns. So Jay White ended up talking about going after Okada for the Continental Championship, since Pac couldn't go, get the job done at Dynasty. So Jay White ended up joking about Pac hiding the halls. Pretty much that was that. And then, as Dynamite came back from the commercial, we ended up seeing a vignette of the EVPs, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. They were highlighting, the vision of the EVPs, when AEW started nearly 5 years ago. So we saw that. And then we went backstage, and the Bucks were gushing over just by how good that, vignette was. And then they ended up wishing Swerve Strickland all the best, as Swerve ended up heading out to the ring, for the next segment to start, which Swerve did end up coming out, the AEW World Champion. He headed to the ring. He had a mic in hand, and Swerve looked angry. And he ended up addressing what went down last week, and that Brian Cage ended up attacking him and stole a piece of his hair. Brian Cage ended up ripping a dread out of Swerve's, head, part of his hair. So Swerve ended up saying that when you're the champ, everyone wants a piece of you, figuratively, and quite literally sometimes. So Swerve then ran down the patriarch, Christian Cage and, Shayna Wayne, Kill Switch, and Nick Wayne. So he called the patriarch out to the ring. Christian Cage's music ended up hitting, and he is the number one contender to face Swerve for the World Championship. So Christian Cage came out, and he came out, of course, along with Nick Wayne, Killswitch, Shayna Wayne. Christian Cage got on the mic. He started running down Edmonton. He was talking about how the Oilers will be stomped in a couple of hours. He ended up saying, speaking of stomp, that's what happened to Swerve last week. He ended up saying, people say it was disgusting to see him take one of the champ's dreads. So Christian Cage was then interrupted by the crowd because the crowd was, booing Christian. So Christian ended up telling the crowd to shut up when he's conducting his business. He ended up saying every week he's going to take a piece of the champ until he gets what he wants. Christian ended up saying that Swerve has been riding a wave as the world champion, but that wave will come down at Double or Nothing. He ended up saying that when the walls come crashing around him, Swerve will look in the mirror and see the only gold he will have left is his teeth, unless he takes those now. So Christian Cage, Killswitch, Nick Wayne, and Shayna Wayne headed to the ring. Swerve ended up saying that he promised he wasn't coming alone. So he revealed that the Mogul Embassy, Gon Toleona, and Brian Cage, come to his aid. So Swerve ended up talking about this being the second time this week. Someone from the West Coast takes out someone from Toronto. So Swerve continued to run Christian Cage down. Christian Cage then blindsided Swerve, and this led to a beatdown from the Mogul Embassy. So Gon Toleona and Brian Cage started beating down on Swerve. So Gon and Toleona and Christian ended up sending Swerve up for a powerbomb, and that led to officials rushing in to intervene, but they were driven away from the Mogul Embassy. So they continued the attack on Swerve. Christian ended up yelling to finish him off. So we had Gon Toleona, Brian Cage. They ended up clearing off the commentary table. They set up the ring steps in front of the table. So Christian Cage ended up running down Swerve, and then we had Gon Toleona end up rising up the steps, and they end up driving Swerve through the commentary table. So Swerve was laid out from the drive, through the commentary table from Gon and Toleona, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, I thought this was, another decent segment here. And then we went backstage, and the Bucks end up applauding what went down, with Swerve. So the Bucks end up loving what they saw. So they end up chatting with Christian Cage about the beginnings of a very fruitful relationship. So the Bucks end up talking about keeping up the energy for the next segment. And pretty much that was that. And then we saw Will Nightingale. Will Nightingale ended up confirming that she is ready to face the challenge of Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing. She ended up saying, but the question is Mercedes ready? Willow ended up saying that the last time her and Mercedes faced off in the ring, She was the victor. Willow ended up saying that she has respect for Mercedes, but for all the attention the CEO likes to draw to herself, and Willow ended up saying that in terms of wrestling, she is more than capable. So that was what Will Nightingale had to say. Then we have Rocky Romero versus Jay White. And this was just a very meh match here. Rocky Romero ended up fending off the advantage from Jay White. He ended up taking Jay White to the outside. So Jay White ended up turning things around, and he grabbed control of Rocky Romero. They started going at it back and forth. And then Dynamite went to commercial. Then when Dynamite came back from the commercial, we had Rocky Romero end up trying to escape the waist lock, which was locked in from Jay White during the other picture-in-picture. So Romero ended up trying to escape that waist lock, but Jay White ended up maintaining control. He ended up locking in a chin lock on Romero. Romero ended up managing to break free of the chin lock. He ended up taking Jay White to the outside, and he ended up driving him into the floor. Jay White ended up getting sent back into the ring. He ended up rising to his feet. Romero ended up catching Jay White with a crossbody. Romero ended up going for the cover, but Jay White ended up kicking out. Romero ended up escaping a sleeper suplex from Jay White, and he ended up going for the cover, and Jay White ended up kicking out. Jay White ended up catching Romero on the turnbuckle. So at the end of the match, we had Jay White end up hitting the Blade Runner on Rocky Romero. So Jay White ended up going for the cover, and he ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Jay White and the Guns end up going after Rocky Romero. Pac ended up coming down to make the save. So we had the Bang Bang Gang end up escaping out of the ring, and that was basically that. Overall, very meh match this was with Rocky Romero and Jay White. You know, we had Jay White going up against Rocky Romero. Can we give Jay White another, good opponent for him? Rocky Romero, really? And then we had a video package on Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe ended up talking about what it means to be a warrior, including a certain level of fear of not being good enough, the fear of being left wanting. Joe ended up saying that, it is not the warrior that fears. He is what these men fear in the first place. So, little video package from Samoa Joe here. And then we had a squash match. Chris Jericho and Big Bill. Of course, Chris Jericho with the learning tree comes out there smiling. I think now we should call Chris Jericho Smiley Jericho. Don't even care about this new gimmick that they gave Jericho, the learning tree. Comes out there like, oh, I gotta show off those Colgate teeth. And then Big Bill. Yeah, that's what Big Bill was doing. Comes out there. Yeah, so they end up taking on jobbers Mo Jabari and Harlon Abbott. Jericho and Big Bill end up winning. No shit. Post-match, Jericho end up grabbing the mic. He ended up saying that it's great to be here in Calgary. And then he was like, oh, Edmonton. So he ended up messing up, thinking that they were in Calgary. So Jericho ended up talking about making mistakes and learning from them. He ended up giving it up for their opponents and to Big Bill for how good Big Bill was tonight. Oh, Big Bill was good because he squashed 2 jobbers. So he ended up saying the match, last week, getting the best rating on Cage Match, his match last week. And he ended up hoping all the best for Hook after what went down at Dynasty. So Tony Schiavone ended up getting into the ring. He ended up announcing that Hook will be back next week on Dynamite. Something Jericho tries to feign being happy about. So Jericho ended up saying that, they can celebrate together next week. And then, of course, starts, smiling, waving. Smiley Jericho. The smiley tree. Don't call it the learning tree, it's the smiley tree. God, this gimmick sucks for Jericho. You want to see Jericho as that badass, that, takes no shit, that's ready for a fight, that's ready for a match. Not this watered down Jericho where he's coming out there and going, waving, smiling. Smiley Jericho. This is doing nothing. What is this accomplishing? Absolutely nothing. Main event. TNT Championship on the line. Adam Copeland versus Brody King in a no disqualification match. This was a very good main event here. Really enjoyed this match. So, Copeland making his way out to the ring first. Of course, big pop there. And then, as Copeland got into the ring, the lights end up going out in the arena, signaled the arrival of Brody King. And we saw Brody King end up make his way down the ramp. And the match ended up getting underway. Copeland ended up trying to get the upper hand on Brody King, but he was taken down hard by Brody King. Copeland ended up going for a side headlock, but he was sent to the ropes by Brody King. So Brody King was delivering some strikes to Copeland. He was looking to go for a powerbomb to Copeland, but Copeland ended up escaping out of that powerbomb attempt. Brody King was on the apron as Copeland ended up going to the ropes, but Copeland ended up getting hung up on the rope by Brody King. And then Dynamite went to commercial. So when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Copeland ended up getting set up on a chair against the barricade by Brody King. Brody ended up coming charging at Copeland. Copeland ended up escaping from sitting on the chair, which forced Brody to collide against the chair and the barricade. So King ended up going into the chair and barricade, both of them at the same time. Copeland then grabbed the chair and he ended up swinging away at Brody King. Copeland then ended up grabbing a second chair. He set the chair up on the apron and he was looking to go for a pile driver to Brody King. But Brody ended up fighting out of it. So he had both Copeland and Brody, they were trading blows at each other. Copeland ended up catching Brody with a DDT. He ended up driving Brody into the chair on the apron. So Brody ended up falling to the floor. Copeland ended up getting back to his feet. Copeland ended up going after Brody King. He ended up bringing Brody back into the ring. And he ended up taking Brody down for a cover. But Brody ended up kicking out. So Copeland ended up propping a chair up in the corner. And he ended up going after, another weapon to use against Brody King. So Brody King ended up rising up for a massive lariat. He ended up taking Copeland down. So Brody ended up going after Copeland, but Copeland turned things around. And then Dynamite went to its final commercial. So when Dynamite came back from the commercial, Copeland ended up bringing Brody back into the ring. And the two ended up going at it with some lariats. And both the guys ended up taking each other down hard to the canvas. And, from that point in the match where where you had Copeland end up driving Brody King into the chair on the apron, hitting the DDT to Brody. You just saw Brody's face all bloodied up. He was bleeding profusely. So we had both Copeland and Brody end up making it back up. They end up trading blows to each other. Copeland end up hoisting Brody onto his shoulders, which Copeland end up collapsing, which allowed Brody to get the pin, and Copeland end up kicking out. Brody ended up sending Copeland up for a cannonball in the corner, and he ended up going for the cover, but Copeland ended up kicking out. You had an awesome spot where you had Brody King on the apron, and you had Copeland end up spearing Brody off the ring apron, driving Brody through the table on the outside, which was great. So you had both Copeland and Brody. They were struggling to get back up, and they both got back to the ring. Copeland then ended up hitting Brody with another spear. Copeland ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Adam Copeland ended up winning the match, retaining the TNT Championship. Post-match, Brody ended up going back on the attack on Copeland. Kyle O'Reilly ended up rushing down to make the save for Copeland. We had O'Reilly end up laying in some strikes to Brody King that allowed Copeland to get back up. And both Copeland and O'Reilly end up running Brody out of the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. Overall, very good match this was. Good main event. Both Copeland and Brody King end up giving it all they got. And the wrestling here from both guys were good. It was just a very entertaining, no disqualification match. And of course, seeing Brody King all bloodied up, was just very good. And then we went backstage, and we saw Mercedes Moné. Mercedes was talking about being ready for Double or Nothing, and how she will be in the gym training when she isn't out and about promoting AEW. She ended up saying that the time that she feels Willow took from her, saying she had to think about things while she was out of action. She ended up assuring that she is ready to take on Willow, and that Willow should enjoy what time she has left with the TBS Championship, because Moné changes everything. And that was what Mercedes had to say. Mercedes was plugging where she was going to be. I was like, does anybody care? All I care to see is Mercedes in the ring at Double or Nothing, taking on Will Nightingale for the TBS Championship. All we see Mercedes do is nothing, but just cut promos. It's to the point where I am tired of seeing Mercedes, and I want her off my TV until Double or Nothing. And then we went backstage, and we had Adam Copeland. He was given kudos for retaining the TNT Championship. And Kyle O'Reilly ended up calling his shot for the TNT Championship. So he wants to be in the Cope Open. So Copeland ended up shaking hands with Kyle O'Reilly because he was like, oh, is that the reason why you were out there to save me? To get close to the TNT Championship? So the match is made official for Collision this Saturday. So Copeland and O'Reilly end up shaking hands, and that was that. You're going to see that match this Saturday on Collision. It's not going to be on TNT. It's going to be on TBS. And then after Collision, it's Rampage. So 3 hours, once again, of AEW television. Great. And then we had the Elite. We had the Bucks and Jack Perry, Okada. They end up addressing the overrun they have, and that they have an announcement of their own to make. Okada delivered a message to Kenny Omega. He was mockingly telling Omega that he hopes that Omega gets well soon. Matthew then ended up addressing Tony Khan, saying that the president got in their way, leading to what happened, a couple of weeks ago when they took out Tony Khan in a so bad it was funny way of how Tony Khan ended up selling, the EVP trigger from the Bucks, and how they laid out Tony Khan with a mic. It's absolutely hilarious. And then you see Tony Khan with the neck brace on him. He even spotted the neck brace during the draft, during the NFL draft. So Nicholas then ended up running down FTR, saying that if it's anarchy in the arena they want, it's anarchy in the arena they're going to get. He ended up saying that the Elite run the show. And then FTR's music ended up hitting. Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler ended up panning out to reveal that they found a couple of guys to help out in this Anarchy in the Arena match for Team AEW. So Eddie Kingston ended up coming out. Got a big pop from the crowd. He is going to be a part of Team AEW with FTR and Kenny Omega taking on the Elite at Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing. And then the next one was Bryan Danielson. Yeah, Bryan Danielson. We haven't seen Bryan since Dynasty. And the crowd ended up going nuts. And, there you go. We have FTR, and we have Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson for Team AEW. So the four men ended up rushing down the ramp. They ended up staring down the Elite. Matthew ended up telling them not to lay one finger on them. And so chaos ended up ensuing. All 8 men in the ring started going at it. We had officials and security ended up rushing down to break up this brawl with these guys. And that was how Dynamite went off the air. So looking forward to this Anarchy in the Arena match at Double or Nothing. Should be good. But overall, Dynamite tonight, just a very mid-show this was. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all on Friday for SmackDown. So see you then.